Lebo. Thank you for coming in full regalia.
Absolutely, looking beautiful. Hello, dear.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and thank you.
Hey, Eric, welcome. Glad you're here. Jennifer, really glad you're here. Barb, so happy to see your beautiful, radiant face.
Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon.
I think all the above on this call.
Absolutely.
Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too, Barb. Nice to see you. And Jennifer and Dana. See some familiar names there. Nice to see you guys.
Dana, we are sending our love and appreciation. Rachel and I had a little two-person love fest over Dana this morning. So we're glad that you came to actually receive it in person.
Hi, we're so happy to be here. We're so excited that Rachel is joining your team.
I know, we are too.
Wonderful.
I think we
So
all
am I.
prayed for that.
Hi, Rachel. Now I see you there. Hi.
Hi, long time. My goodness, it's been a while.
I know. I'm very
Yeah.
excited to hear what y'all have to say. And Jen's here too.
Hey,
See
Jen.
that? Hey, Jen.
Hi, you guys. Good to see you.
You too.
So I know we are at 9:30 and we promised to be prompt in the hour. So shall we get started and just let people join? Maxwell, do we have your blessing on that?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with the less important part, and that's my part, which is just to say, this is an emotional moment for me, and I'm so glad to share it with each of you. It's been an incredible 5 years that started, in a Iraqi cafe in Istanbul, and I have the profound pleasure of handing the reins to a team that is beyond my wildest dreams and continuing to work on all the projects that we share passion for and continuing to be a support for them and a cheerleader for them. So just feeling like this is a little bit of therapy for me, and thanks for joining in that. I want to just talk a little bit about this transition. This has been something we've been thinking about and talking about for a long time. The mission of Safe Place has always been to be a movement, to be the wind under the wings of strong community structures that already exist, to source what is already working, to recognize the resources that are already deployed in these amazing people that we work with. And this is another symbol of that. It's the handing off. Lebo said something really beautiful about sort of the symbology of a Ferris wheel, and we're on this Ferris wheel, and sometimes we're in the carriages, and sometimes we're at the platform looking up in awe at the carriages, but we're always participating. And I was just doing a few donor calls before this call, and I found myself crying into the video for the gratitude of every volunteer for the last 5 years who has jumped in and said yes to their heart and co-created this movement. And often people mistake and they talk about me as a founder having some kind of vision that I was executing, and really I was always just listening to who was showing up, and I was saying yes right along with this amazing team that was just forming itself. People were seeing a need, they were seeing an opportunity, and they were joining, and they were bringing themselves fully. And each time someone joined, the organization changed. And that's happening in a very, very powerful way today. And so, it's a great honor for Lebo and Rachel and I to have you hold hands as we very consciously kind of have this ceremony of shift, ceremony and kind of acknowledgement of the growth and the partnership and the trust and the intimacy that allows organizations to change and roles to change and people to find their right place, and the kind of culture and the kind of connection that's required for that to happen. So with that, I want to welcome everyone on the call. You are all our beloveds, and want to also welcome everyone who will see this call later and know that There is no time that separates us. There is no geography that separates us. We are talking to you. We are including you. You are part of our community. Even if you're listening to this 3 months from now, know that we are feeling you and thankful for you. And if we don't get to thank you as profusely as we should, just know that we're off doing the good work with the resources that you entrusted with us. So with that, I'd like to get right into meeting these incredible beings by just giving a quick background on how we found them, because I think it's always, when you meet people who are intimate, you always want to know how they met, right? So I have known Rachael, I think for 5 or 6 years, and the first moment that I met her eyes, I felt my heart explode. And then every time I went to Lesbos for 5 hours, I found a way to see her and just dive in and be in partnership. She has felt like family from the first time we met. And I asked Rachael in January if she would ever consider knowing safe places intimately as she does, because she's been with us the whole time, the whole journey, leading us, being our ED. And she really took time. She was not the one you can propose to on bended knee and get a yes right then. She took time and she did due diligence, and she went around and she met, all the parts of the organization and asked all the questions. And then she said, yes, this is something that I would deeply consider. And then we went through this process, because that's what organizations do, of looking. And we interviewed people, and we had a hiring committee, and that hiring committee must have done, 80 different interviews and conversations, and everyone reached the same conclusion. It could only be Rachael. It could only be Rachael. Similar process with Lebo, except different. I had the good fortune to be on Lebo's amazing radio show called The Rainbow Table. And the minute I sat down, I just felt flushed and emotional. And I was like, I need to be articulate because this is radio and my emotion is not going to be seen. And her brilliance and her compassion and her ability to lead from this deep organic place. I said right then, we have to work together. We're meant to play together. I think we've done this before. I'm meeting an old friend. I'm meeting my family. And I was just so moved that I felt like a little bit like a schoolgirl. I was just, overwhelmed in awe of the beauty and the power of this being, and the grace of this being, and the wisdom of this being. And so, what happened is Lebo just showed up. She just showed up and held our community. She just showed up and led. And then after a while, we were like, you're the communications director already, but shall we write you a job description and hire you? And of course, she was like, of course I will. Of course I will. So with these two, whenever we hang out, it feels like best friends who are finishing each other's sentences. And my role is now stepping back to go and support the many projects that have grown from Safe Place, and to be the private counsel and support and fan of these two amazing women. And so with that, we wanted to just, ask some questions, or I wanted to ask some questions, which would allow sort of a rapid developing of your relationship with them, because we want to invite you to reach out to them and get to know them the way that I do, the way that our staff does, the way that our community does, because they're absolutely phenomenal leaders. So with that, I've written a couple questions in case I got all flustered with how amazing they are. And so in the spirit of, if you really knew me, because if you really knew me is one of the things that we start off almost every meeting with, we'd like to ask each of you what matters most to you and why. Rachael, maybe you want to start, because I'm not sure if Lebo is frozen or not. Lebo may be frozen.
I think she may be. So yes, I would be happy to start. And Justin, thank you for that amazing introduction. And yes, 100%, I'm with you. So what really matters to me, if you really knew me, you would know that I am incredibly passionate about service and about taking care of people. I spent the last several years working in an organization in Greece, in Lesbos, that focuses on the regeneration of land and of people in a deeply divided and injured society. Lesbos has been through so much as an island and through so much as a community. And so I kind of have to come to everything that I do through this lens of gardening, because I've spent so much time now in the garden in the last several years. So our work there was about ecotherapy, it was about education, and it was all in activities that would bring together the local population and the refugee population that had recently arrived. And the purpose of that was to create opportunities for people to connect on a very authentic level, so that they can begin to build relationships that would heal those fractures in that society. So all of this was done with the principles of permaculture, which are care for the earth, care for people, and redistribution of fair share. So what I've really seen is that these principles apply to every aspect of life. So it's not only in the garden, it's not only talking about what you can do to land, right? It's that when you come together with people from all over the world to care for the earth, what you're doing is you're coming together to care for our common home. And that what that does is it shows that we are all members of the human race. And that on a very basic level, when you clean a beach, or when you plant a tomato, or when you allow people a space where they can come and commune with nature in a way that washes away their trauma, or tries to, it also washes away the differences between us in many ways. And so that experience was really transformational for me in many, many ways. And that was what those are the principles really that guide everything in my life. The care of people is also at every level. So it's at the level of the interactions that you have on the street. It's certainly the way that I approach leadership in caring for the team, making sure that they're well resourced, making sure that they have everything they need to thrive and succeed. And it's about also thinking about the people that the organization itself serves. And so the health of the organization allows the caring of many, many people in the communities that we serve. And if we can do it from a place of sustainability, then that work is allowed to continue for as long as we're needed. And yeah, so I think I'm very passionate about service.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for always so beautifully infusing the love and care and passion and intimacy you have for our community with efficiency and brilliance and super functionality. That's a combination that we rarely see in the NGO space. It's either one or the other. So thanks for always fusing those two so beautifully and reminding us that they can live together, that love and being incredibly efficient and practical can live together. Lebo, are you with us? I think you might be frozen, but I want to see. Can you hear us? So one of the challenges of being in 13 countries that have rolling blackouts is that our relationship sometimes has to be felt deep inside because we have lapses in technology. This is one of those lapses. So we're going to come back to that question with Lebo, hoping that she can make her way through. What's happened is in Cape Town, there's rolling blackouts. And so often we lose contact for 15 minutes or a little longer. So Lebo will come back to us. And Rachel, I wanted to ask you, being someone that has tracked Safe Place from the very beginning, when we were, just starting our shelters in Lesbos and when we were just, having our very first shelters in Athens and kind of tracking through me, the growth and the progress, you're an informed, partaker. You made an informed choice. What attracted you to Safe Place?
Well, much in the same way that you were affected by our first meeting, I have to say that I was also affected by our first meeting. I felt very connected to you from the beginning, Justin, but also in the work that you do. And I think that it's really quite inspirational and always has been, the way that Safe Place really speaks to the needs of a population that is extra vulnerable in an already really horrible situation. And there aren't a lot of organizations that are serving those particular populations. On a personal level, as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community myself, that speaks to me, but also just having experienced what I did in Lesbos and knowing the challenges that are facing some of those members of the community, certainly I felt like it was a calling, that it was quite substantial and remarkable what you had built and what Safe Place was able to accomplish. And I felt quite drawn to that as an individual, as a supporter, as I was for years, and certainly now as a member of the team myself. So in addition to that, honestly, I think I've learned more in the last few months about what makes Safe Places approach different. So I've learned quite a lot in the last, well, over the last several months, as you mentioned. I took my time, but Safe Places approach really is different, and it's not about the delivery of humanitarian aid. It's not about the provision of direct aid. And having been in this space now for several years, I saw, I came to this fresh. I didn't study this topic. I didn't have experience with the humanitarian realm before I came here. And it's been a process of me learning about the resources and the way that they are spread around the globe, and about the relationship between nonprofit organizations and the communities that they serve. And what is really clear to me is that a more holistic approach, one that goes beyond simply charity, giving of what the community might need to meet their basic needs, that's really what is needed, something beyond that. And you mentioned at the beginning that you're just listening to the community, and listening for how to guide the work. That's certainly the way that I approached in the garden. We had our ideas of what that project was going to be, but the gardeners themselves really showed us what was necessary and showed us what we needed to be. And I'm quite drawn to that as an approach. I think it needs to come from the community itself. And I've learned substantially in the last several months that Safe Place does that on a number of levels. And I found I have a huge amount of respect for Safe Place as an organization because of that. And I mean, honestly, what attracted me to begin with was intuition. I rely kind of deeply on my intuition to guide me. And as I have learned more about this organization, learned more about the people involved, seen and now experienced what it's like to also work on the inside, that it's only confirmation that I have received that this is the right place for me to be. So I'm very humbled and very grateful to be here.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Home. Lebo, welcome back, love. Welcome back, and thank you for fighting through the technological battlefield to get back home. And you're such a vast human being, but we just want to open the door for everyone here and start to taste your vastness. Talk to us about what's most important to you and why.
Yeah, thank you. And it's evening on my side, so I'll just say good evening to everybody. So I am a psychologist by profession. I am also a spiritual healer who underwent a long process of training in the ancient medicinal and indigenous knowledge in terms of healing. I've also been a gender and human rights activist for the past 15 years in South Africa, but also in the region, which we call the SADC, the South African Development Community, but also in the continent. So what is important to me? I think firstly, it's my relentless belief in the ability for humanity to be good. That is the first thing. The second thing is our connectedness with spirit and also with the environment. I absolutely believe that we have to have a symbiotic relationship with nature, with our environment, and with ourselves, as diverse as we are.
Lebo, you might want to turn your video off because we're missing pieces of what you're saying.
It is important.
Lebo, you're cutting out quite a bit. If you can hear this, it might be, yeah, perfect.
That's what's going to ensure our sustainability and our continued existence on this earth. Non-binary woman. So as a gender woman, there also does seem to be a bit of a delay. So I'm not sure if we are on the same wavelength, but yeah, that's me. I'm a gender non-conforming, non-binary woman in Africa. And so issues of LGBTI, our freedom, our safety, those are all very, very important things to me. And they are the reason why I carry on doing what I do.
And Lebo, we can hear you pretty clearly, and certainly your heart and your message is coming through loud and clear, even if we miss a word here or there. Safe Place was very familiar to you because you just jumped in and participated with us right away after we met. You were a big yes, and you opened many doors for us, and you connected us to many communities. You're a very prominent activist and media figure in South Africa. You could go wherever you wanted. What attracted you to Safe Place, knowing what you did and experiencing what you did with the community? Did that come through okay, Lebo? This is our life and the perils of the internet and rolling blackouts. So thanks for everybody with rolling with that. Are you with us, Lebo? We're gonna move on and just kind of go for a little deeper cut with Rachel, and then we're gonna come back to Lebo. Oh, can you hear us, Lebo? Oh. It's Lebo, your voice is still not coming through. So let's pause and maybe rejoin the call. And Rachel, I think, there's so many organizational leaders here who have been with organizations and evolved them over time and are continually asking the question, what is the core of this organization? What is the essence of this organization? You've been the ED for less than 10 days now, but you've known the organization for a while. What is the essence? What is the DNA of Safe Place?
Yes, I think it's been 6 days.
Sorry, seems like so long.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still learning, as I said. Then this will be a process, but what I see as the core of Safe Place is that it creates safe spaces, right? But it goes beyond the actual shelter and physical well-being of a person. It's creating a safe space for people to unlock the light within themselves. And I feel like what I'm seeing is that the people who interact with us are finding their way to shine. And that's in the communities within the Dream Academy, that is within our staff. It's within many people who come into contact with Safe Place as an organization. So it's expanding that safe place into the realm of self-discovery and empowerment in a way that really allows people to grow into their full potential. So in the Dream Academy, this of course happens with the building of the community itself, which becomes a resource to each other. It's, you know, in the way that we dive into vulnerability and self-discovery, but also in the very hard skills that come along with that curriculum as well, building the skills and experiences that then help people become successful as they move forward in life. So yeah, I think it's, and I'm seeing that, of course, also in the staff meetings that we've had, and in the very short amount of time that I've worked on the inside of the organization itself. It's not something that we just give lip service to. I see it in really many interactions on a daily basis. So that's, to me, that's different. That's not something that I've experienced in the workplace before, and it's certainly something that that many organizations could benefit from. So I'm learning, and I'm very inspired by what I see.
It's been an amazing 6 days.
Yes, it has.
Lifetime. Lebo, we're going to take advantage that we can see your beautiful self, and we have a connection for a minute. So I'm going to combine two questions. What attracted you to Safe Place, and what, in your experience, is the essence, is the DNA of Safe Place?
Sure, and thank you. So right off the bat, let me just say that if you had asked me 2 years ago if I'd ever work with an American organization, I would have said absolutely not, because my sort of first instinct is not really to trust, you know, Americans, and also, you know, people coming from the sort of the global north into Africa. Please also remember that I am African in South Africa, and we have a history of colonization. So there's been distrust, you know, from organizations that come into the space. And all of that changed when I met a wonderful young lesbian woman who came to me one day and said, I just want to talk to you about Safe Place International. I loved her. I fell in love with her, listening to her story and how she had been, you know, how her life changed after interacting and going through a program of Safe Place International called the Dream Academy. And so my interest was piqued, and it seemed like she was saying all the right things. But I still, you know, I didn't think that this was the place for me until I had you, Justin, on my radio program. And I got to know more about Safe Place International. And I started to speak to more people, you know, South Africans, Zimbabweans, you know, Kenyans who had been through the Dream Academy. And I started to realize, oh my goodness, there was something very different about this particular organization in terms of how they conduct the work that they are doing in the continent, in Africa. So when I spoke to you, Justin, on my radio show, I forgot that I was on radio. I forgot that I was supposed to be anchoring a program. And we had the most beautiful conversation. And that conversation haunted me for a long time after that. And I found myself coming to acts of kindness that were being done by community members and students of the Dream Academy. And that was it for me. I was hooked. And I began to trust, I began to open myself to these Americans who understood, how to come in to the country, to the continent, with respect, with the awareness that they come from spaces of privilege and proximity to a lot of things that may not necessarily, be as easy to reach or find here in Africa. And yet there was, for me, I think, the biggest draw card for me was that there was no pompousness, there was no prescriptiveness, because this is what we were used to here in Africa. We were used to being told how to accept aid. We were told what we needed. We were told, what made us worthy to be helped. And, so there was always a level of, feeling that, these condescending people. And here were these Americans right in the thick of things. And I started to look for the leader. And I wasn't sure who the leader was, because everybody, young and old, black and white, was holding on to something, leading, being phenomenal, being amazing. And I said to myself, there is no way that this bus is going to leave me behind, because this is the new future. This is what collaboration looks like. This is what activation looks like. And this is the blueprint for how organizations in first world countries should be working in Africa. And it was a first for me. And I'm not one to ignore, things that I feel are groundbreaking. So I wanted to be a part of that. It resonated with me, the essence of humility, the essence of humanness, but also the different kind of leadership that I saw in this organization is what keeps me engaged. It's what keeps me here, marveling all the time, that we, are able to even lead ourselves coming into the organization. A lot of what is happening. So it's been phenomenal. It still is every single day.
In Lebo, one of the aspects of your sharing that's always so breathtaking and moving for me is your authenticity. And that's a value that we have throughout the organization. We don't mind looking bad. We know that's the way that we learn. So we're constantly taking feedback and giving each other feedback and finding out what we could have done better. And so I think we want to really share that inner culture with our extended family today. And I'd love, Rachael, for you to talk about what Safe Place does really well and what we're still learning about and what we could do better. Open
Absolutely. Open kimono, absolutely. Yeah, so to start with what we do well, I mean, and again, I'm brand new here, but I think that one of the things that's very, very clear is that we know what our passion is. We know what our purpose is. Everyone is here coming from kind of a different background and maybe for a slightly different reason, but we are all here working on a shared vision. And there's a clear dedication to helping each other meet that shared vision as well. We support each other. The sense of family from the very beginning is just palpable. It's quite incredible to experience. I think that that comes from the culture that the organization has, generally speaking, but also what everyone experiences in the Dream Academy. And I haven't experienced Dream Academy yet, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. But certainly, emotional intelligence, empathy, an incredibly creative, incredibly capable team. The level of skill and expertise on the team itself is stunning. And but above and beyond that, I'd say it is a team of very dedicated people. They're here because they love the work, and that comes through quite clearly. What we are maybe still working out, and I think that was both what Lebo said and Justin, what you said is a nice segue into that. So on the one hand, we're a relatively young organization, and we came from a place of grassroots, responding to the needs in a crisis moment. I mean, arguably the crisis point in 2017 had already passed in Lesbos, but for the population that we were serving at that time, it was still quite a dire moment. So what we have seen in Greece, particularly responding to the refugee situation there over the last several years, is that people show up as volunteers, they see what is needed, and then they start responding. And then organizations grow out of that. And that certainly, it speaks to the origins of Safe Place as an organization as well. There are a number of challenges that come with organizations starting in that way, and especially ones that grow as quickly as Safe Place has. And so we're in this realm between a small grassroots organization that's professionalizing and finding the structure that works best for us and continuing to adapt. It's definitely a strength of organizations like this, that they're quite agile, and they're able to adapt to needs very quickly. But on the other hand, then they grow quickly in one direction, and they like we have, might seem much bigger and much more established than we actually are in some of these areas. And so I think it's a challenge to grow in a sustainable way when there is not an existing very strong and established foundation underneath you. So there are certain things as an organization that we gaps that we are filling, gaps that we are needing to fill. And I think we know what most of those are, which is great. A limited budget is also very as part of that challenge. We have a lot of staff members who are wearing many hats at once, and certainly we would like to be able to offer more professional salaries, for example, and creating positions that are more sustainable for the team to be able to contribute as long as they might wish to do so. But speaking more to what Lebo was saying, I think that this is also one of the things that I'm not going to say it's a challenge or a growth area, but it's an area in which we will grow, and we will probably make mistakes and grow together and learn together. And that's one of the most exciting things about this particular situation for me, is that we have this value that we're striving to uphold, which is anti-colonial, which is passing the power to people who have not, in this particular dichotomy, have not traditionally been given enough power, and all of which they deserve. And to do that in this way, where the leadership is shared, and where we're in a place where we're not afraid to make mistakes, and to be open kimono with each other, and to do so with great vulnerability. I think it's also a huge potential for growth and for establishing a model that could be an example to other organizations. And that's a very exciting place for me to come into this organization in. And certainly on the heels of, the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, which was so powerful to so many of us in the US. I think it showed a lot of us where we are falling down. And to have the opportunity for me in my international experience to come in and have this incredible opportunity to work directly in these areas, in these, it's sensitive, and we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay, and we're going to grow together. And that's, to me, I would say, not a place that, I think the way you phrase it, what are we still working out? What are we still figuring out? We're in a process, right? And I do feel like we're on a right path there, but it's not figured out quite yet. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Lebo. I never have to ask you to tell me the truth. I know that you're always going to give me the absolute, unfettered, sort of unfiltered truth in such the spirit of love and connection. So talk to us about what Safe Place does well, and as Rachel phrased it, what we're still working out.
Yes. So, when we are an organization that sees the difference we are making in people's lives, we are changing lives in real time every day. We see it, we hear it, we feel it every single day. We are changing lives. We are, giving people the opportunity to find their power, to find their talents, their strengths, and it's life-changing. That we do beautifully well. And when you see this happening in real time, sometimes the more sort of administrative things of running an organization just don't take the priority seat, because they kind of the mundane, the ordinary, and we thrive on being extraordinary. And so, yes, of course, sometimes we may drop the ball there because, sometimes it's really a toss between, can you be available for a strategic meeting, or can you be available for someone who says, look, I need you, and you showing up for this person changes their lives and gives them a platform to thrive, to fly off. It's difficult, So yeah, we're grappling with those things, but we are in a beautiful time where we are finding the competencies. We are an amazing team, talented. I wouldn't be myself, Justin, if I didn't throw in the one thing that bugs me, my criticism of the organization here, and with all the love and respect, of course, is that I look at your leadership. I look at the leadership of our wonderful organization. And I specifically referring to the board. And in that board, I see mainly white, mainly American people. And I'm thinking, but we are a diverse organization that celebrates diversity, that celebrates representation. Where are people like me on this board? So that indeed, especially, I think Africa now is our biggest, playground. It's our biggest place where we have operations. I would just like to see a bit more representation on the board, because we are going into a place where context, nuance, becomes critically important for our sustainability and also the longevity of the work. So I think if I could see a bit more diversity in terms of nationality and in terms of color on the board, I would, I really think we are at A+, A+. Yeah.
Amen and hallelujah. And I think everyone on the call would agree with your feedback. And I would say that recognizing that the organization has always led the board at Safe Place, and that continues to be the case. We appreciate your leadership in our board reflecting our community in the same way that the leadership of Safe Place reflects the community. And with that, before we continue with the questions, I just want to acknowledge that we're diving deep in this hour with Lebo and with Rachel, but we have an incredible team of leaders across the world. And Dolly, who is our global head of the Global Family Program, is with us. Sula, who is our Kenya director and is also taking on Kukuma Camp, is with us. Sherry, who is our global logistics director, is with us from India, even though it's very late there. So just want to acknowledge the three of you, as well as Barbara, who's really straddles the board staff continuum. Barb is so involved in our communication and is the reason why we have Rachel as a leader today. It was Barb's quick action and decisiveness that allowed us to secure a very hot property in the NGO world. So just to acknowledge that. And also, of course, Tracy Gary, one of our amazing supporters and networkers, and my friend Rachel, who is another big supporter of us on so many ways, and Devin, who has been here from the ground up holding people, and certainly our friends at Humanity Now, who are our close partners in all of our new shelters for Ukrainian refugees. So just thanking you all for being here, and then continuing to dive deep. Tracy, did you want to throw something in there before we drive to the next question? Oops, I think you're muted, love. You're muted in the woods.
Yeah, feel free. It's a wonderful exchange. I know that I have to go off at the end of the hour. So if there is going to be open questions, then just know that my hand is raised. I don't need to do it now. Thanks.
Okay, great. Love you, Tracy, and love where you are. I think, as I listen to you, Rachel, and you, Lebo, I have the privilege of having an intimate relationship with both of you, but I would imagine for people who are just getting to know you, they would want to know a little bit about how your lived experience brought you to your leadership positions and how your lived experience informs your leadership. So Rachel, whatever you'd like to share about that, and we're all ears and hearts.
Sure. So in my previous life, I was an academic dean at a technical college in Kansas. And I think that position, which I held for 8 years, certainly was one that gave me kind of the practical skills, the organizational management, the management of people, training people to be successful in the future is what we did. So, that whole spirit of vocational education comes from many years in that field as well. The sense of service, the volunteering is something that I've done all my life and have been passionate about all my life. So that is very innate to me. Certainly when I entered the European realm, I got a lot of on-the-job training in terms of what that means for migration and people who are in the asylum process, the issues that they face, and particularly in other countries. In that work, I also have been, for the last several years, since 2018, on the board of one of these grassroots organizations that has been working in Lesbos and now Athens, and worked all over Greece, actually. So from nonprofit management standpoint, I've learned an incredible amount from that experience, and an understanding of how nonprofits work, how they operate in other countries, the importance of financial security, and really how providing good stability is key to continuing the work. And more than anything else, well-being of the team itself, I think is paramount. And I've seen too many people in this work with amazing hearts and amazing amounts of dedication burn out, and because they, their self-care is not prioritized. So it's something I'm really, really passionate about. And, overall, whether we're talking about relationships with donors and supporters, or relationships with foundations, relationships with other partner organizations, relationships with the community that we serve, what I've learned more than anything in this is that strong relationships and taking care of people and the partners that we do this work with is the absolute key to success. And that you can, there are other things that you can sacrifice along the way and still get the job done and come back to them, but that's definitely what is most important. So yeah, that's what's brought me to this
From
place. My lived
Kansas.
experience as a Kansas girl, all the way to, well, Athens, Cape Town, beyond. So yeah, that's it.
Interesting. Lebo, talk to us about how your lived experience has delivered you to this moment.
Yes, so I started out in research and I worked for a number of years at the Human Sciences Research Council. And then I moved to government where I worked for the Premier of the Eastern Cape, which is one of our rural provinces in South Africa. And I was in charge of his special programs. That work, although fulfilling in some ways, I describe it today as leaving me feeling like an empty husk. It was government, it was politics, it was soulless work. And I remember towards the end of my tenure in government, I accepted my call to healership and I trained to be a spiritual healer. And so one of the things that I offer in my training and in my work with people is assisted lamentation, which really is about letting the inner child cry to find healing, from the inner child's voice. And one day I asked myself, what is my lamentation? What is my lamentation? And I realized that, having seen so many young children being bullied for being gay, for being lesbian, for being trans, these children deciding to die by suicide because they felt that they couldn't be in this world anymore. That was my lamentation. So I kicked off the court shoes and the stilettos, of course, and the power suits that I would wear in the halls of parliament. And I said, I didn't want to be in an office anymore. I wanted to be with my people. I wanted to make real human connections. So that's what I did for a time. And then I worked with advocacy organizations in the country and also in the continent. And I traveled throughout the continent, trying to sort of understand why homophobia, why xenophobia, why is it that diversity is something that separates us instead of, drawing us together. So that has been the questions I ask whilst trying to understand my own lamentation, the inner child in me, who cries for a future and a world that I know is possible. And, as a spiritual healer, sometimes we get glimpses into what is possible. And it's not always clear what our own role is in taking, humanity, the world, our community, society to that place. So yes, that's what brings me here. I've had radio shows because I wanted to connect people. I wanted to, commune with people from all walks of life. But at the same time, trying to bring together those that would ordinarily not want to be in the same space or eating from the same bowl or drinking from the same cup. I believe it's possible. It is a relentless belief that I have. And now I find myself in this family with a very clear role and a clear understanding now of what my part is in bringing us to that destination. Yeah.
Thank you, Lebo. And the Dream Academy is a content-rich environment. There's so many experiences. There's so much knowledge. There's so much to go through in that process. But really, one of the core aspects of the Dream Academy is being seen, being witnessed, and recognizing the truth of that witness, recognizing that actually, yes, I am a powerful, beautiful, capable human being. And so one of the things that we often do, just because it's obvious in the moment when we look and experience each other, is we witness each other. So as we shift to open questions, I have just one brief last question for each of you, and that's, what do you love about the other, Rachael and Lebo? What do you love? Just one thing, and then we'll shift, just because it's such a core part of what we get to celebrate here.
One thing.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard. You can continue afterwards.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. I mean, I have a list, a laundry list of the things that I love about Lebo. But I would say, if I have to choose one thing in this moment, what I'm going to choose is that I love her as a spiritual being. I feel very deeply connected to the way that she looks at the world through that lens, and that as someone who sees the divine in everything, and that's something that I certainly strive to do as well, who communes with nature in that way and sees healing power in so many things. That is what I love to see shine through you, Lebo, and I think is a huge amount of your power. So if I have to pick one, that's it today.
Beautiful. And Lebo?
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, I find it equally difficult to pick just one thing. Rachel, I got to spend some time with you when you were in South Africa not so long ago. Honestly, I fell in love. I found a friend, a sister, all of these things. And, I always say to you, my leader. And I say this because that one quality that will, the humility that just shines through your demeanor, it is so rare for me to come across that powerful way, because I feel that your power and your magic is really in your humility.
Beautiful, and compliments to the very difficult task of restricting it to one. We have just a minute or two for open questions. I wish we had more time. We can certainly go over, and just want to invite you to reach out to Rachael and Lebo directly, or any of our staff. And I'm hoping that Maxwell will let us have introductions to some of our other amazing members of the leadership team. But Tracy, you've been so patient out in your hike. Please share with us your question.
So first, I want to really thank you all so much for sharing who you are. And it's been very moving also, Justin, to hear your enthusiastic support of them, and know that you will do your part as a founder to step back, because it's and to bring along. And that's just part of our energy as founders of organizations. And so my real question had to do with team building and just the challenges of team building. We don't have time, so I will reach out to both of you to have some time together. So let me just give you this context. 6 months ago, I became familiar through Celise, who was a really outstanding board chair of Safe Place International, and was just wowed. I've been involved with a lot of organizations, and I really contend that the Dream Academy, which I'm very excited, Rachel, for you to get to see with the magic that really happens there, the extraordinary, is really a gift, beautifully designed by Justin and, a team of people, but really an extraordinary team of people who, we all know have just are making an incredible difference. And I think it's actually the model for the rest of the refugee community. So there's a lot that we can do internally to, keep our team building really happening in a positive way, and the culture of the organization healthy. Because when, we bring our passions, and we're a little outrageous. We're a lot of, intense people, myself included. And when we bring that force along, we need those counterbalancing people who say, let's slow down and let's listen deeply to each other and take a step back, because we need to get that broader perspective now that the organization is so much bigger. So I just wish you all the luck and love in the world. And Justin, I'm also here to care about you and support you, to know that this should be a relief to be able to, have other people doing a lot of the work that you've been doing, so solo for so long. And I wish everybody a healthy culture for Safe Place International, which is just an honoring, because it is a pearl that, between Yvonne and Rich and you and others in the countries that exist, are really transforming lives. And we have to remember that we have to get our egos out of the way and into, how do we step back so we allow you all to bring the next stage of the organization into fruition, which is going to look and feel very different. It's really about institutionalization and keeping our creativity going, but also letting ourselves have some of the messiness, of course, will always exist, but also more love, more care, and more respect, and better health in the organization's interactions with each other, because it's been fragmented at times. And I know, even as a donor who's in the distance, I know that, what's true is we want all our organizations to be as healthy as they can. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to really be respectful of the hour that you've generously given us, and say, Jody, please reach out. This is the excuse for us to have a proper catch up and for you to get connected directly with Rachael and Lebo. And we certainly hope that Maxwell will let us be with you again, and that maybe we'll get to do deep dives with Dolly, with Sula, with Sherry, with Nyasha, with some of the other members of our teams as well. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for all you do out in the world. Humanity Now, thanks for being our partners and being such heroic women in the world, all over the world, all the time. Love all of you. And Matt has put some upcoming dates we've got coming up. If you know folks with resources, we have 10 safe houses that are unfunded, from Serbia to all over Africa. They have approved applications. They're safe houses that are refugee led, with 8 to 12, sometimes 15 people in each safe house. They have no food security, no safety security, and that little amount that we can offer them every month allows them to be sustainable. Dolly is the global head of that program, and Dolly has a success rate of 50% of the safe houses becoming self-sustainable every year. So it's an incredibly successful program. It's $2,400 to sponsor a safe house. We encourage donors to get directly involved with the safe house they support. It's an opportunity to cross all the geographic, socioeconomic, and every other kind of line, and just get intimate. So if you know folks with resources, please connect them to that opportunity, because it's one that really it's painful for us to know about such a defined need of high impact and low investment that's not being fulfilled. Again, thanks everyone. Thank you, Rachael. Thank you, Lebo. And thank you everyone for your time. And for everyone that will see this video later, we love you. Reach out. We are about deep relatedness. Come and find us. There'll be opportunities to participate in Dream Academy and all of our programs. Thanks, everybody.
And I hope to see you when I come to the US in October. Bye.
That's right.
Bye.
For anyone that's coming to the Washington event, you are going to get the pleasure of wrapping your arms around both of these delicious women. And we're hoping to get them out to the West Coast too. So hopefully that happens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.